Welcome to Deep Thought. Examine counter arguments while doing research. This is very key. This is very key because a lot of times when people are researching, a lot of times they're not doing it from an objective place, but they're doing it for the research to really just validate their own viewpoints. And I've seen that a lot. I ain't calling any names. But I've seen that a lot. People have a certain idea, a certain thing they want to point out, but they just look for research that supports their argument and nothing else. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing at all. And it can hurt you in the long run because I don't care who did the research. I don't care what source materials you use, what endnotes, what books. At the end of the day, everything is going to reflect a person's personal bias. No ifs, ands, and buts. I don't care how objective they try to be. It's going to reflect it at a certain bit. I'm going to say this even for myself. Now, I can be more emotionless. I can tend to be objective, but it's still ultimately the way I see it. Don't make it right or wrong. It's just how I see it. That's why I've told people, like on my men's channel, I've said, okay, I'm telling you all this. Go see if it works for yourself. Now, I never said, hey, take it as gospel. Go see if it works for you. And like I tell people, hear me talk body game, but I've actually done research into that. It's like qualitative research, personal research, and even for some detractors on that channel, I've provided links where it's been studied in academically. All right. So, but even then, even with all of that, it's still the way I'm seeing it. But and trust me, even in promoting the body game, trust me. In fact, this is something I do to this day. I actually look for counter arguments. I actually personally look for counter arguments. And I'm the type, if I find a strong counter argument, I'll present it. But you got to do that in your research. As biased as you want to be, as much as you wanted to do to prove your position, you can be hurt if you don't see the other side because it might be more accurate, it might be more honest, And I don't say, and if I find some research, it's not based on my personal feeling of it, right? Because, I give an example. I remember I did a video. I did a video back in the fall, and I said, master sales. No, it's earlier this year. I said master salesmen tend to be very good players, something like that. It was on my main men's channel. And I had some detractor did a counter video and stuff. And if I felt like challenging them, I would say, okay, what research did you do to say that? Or are you just doing it from emotion? What do you have to back that up? How many master salesmen have you talked to? And they couldn't give me an answer if I challenged them. But I just kind of ignored them because I knew I'm basing this on qualitative research. Which means I actually went out and talked, which is a definite thing. I actually talked to these guys. I actually watched them and observed them, right? But even then, I still examine the counter arguments. See, the counter arguments are basic. You want to know if your research is good. Because sometimes the counter argument might have a stronger reason why it's not good. And it could tell you, you might have somebody say something, but then the counter argument is saying this and that. It's saying something different. And what you got to do is look at it and weigh them both. And then you might be able to come up with the best conclusion. You might not come up with the ultimate conclusion because, well, that gets into some deeper philosophical things. What's truth? The only truth, there's very few truths out there. truth means it's objective. Everybody can agree with it. But that's another conversation. But you want to examine the counter argument. It's like, okay, I seen this argument. Okay, what was it based on? What was it talking about? You know, and it could either refute the original research, it could either refute it, it can enhance it by adding to it, or it might not even be a good argument. But you still need to know all sides of the picture, and it can give you a better idea, because then you one person saying, okay, this researcher is saying this researcher is saying that, and it's like, wait a minute. Sometimes that counter argument might have some things that are very similar to each other. And then you could do that. And then even with the counter argument, you still might find some other stuff that gives you a better thing about what's going on. And see, this is very important. Like I'll use an example. This don't have to do with research, but the field of law. Like an attorney, right? Say an attorney, he has an argument for something. It could be a civil suit, whatever. He's taking a position. He or she is taking a position on something. The smart attorney would see what the defense's argument is or the opposition's argument is. Because an attorney who didn't do that, they wouldn't make a lot of money. They would probably lose. Because you need to know. You need to know what the other person's going to say. What's their defense? So that's the same thing with doing research. Like say you taking a position based on some research you did, right? Very important position. It could bring you money, whatever. You might just want to win the argument on some YouTube hangout, right? Some YouTube live stream. Okay, you did all that research. Then you thinking you looking all good and everything. But then somebody come up with some counter thing that you didn't explore at first. And then hitting it, making you look bad. But here's the thing. If that person had did the counter, looked at the counter arguments, then they would already have a defense against it if it's not supporting his position. Or if he's looking at the counter arguments, he might realize his position wasn't correct to begin with. That's very important. You want to look at all angles. You always want to look at all angles of the research to really come with the best conclusion, because then you might be able to pull stuff from each of the arguments. You might be able to pull stuff from each of the arguments or the positions, or you might learn something totally new. You might look at the counter argument, and maybe you're looking at a book and you're looking at the footnotes, and you say, wait a minute, there's a footnote here that was mentioned in the previous book. Let me look at that. And then that might be the best position. Because remember what I said about the bias part. At the end of the day, everybody's going to exhibit some bias. Nobody is totally objective. And maybe both sides of the research, they still present their position that they want to present. But then there might be somebody third that they both pulled arguments from that wasn't a complete thing. You read that or look at that, go down that line, all of a sudden you're just like, oh, wow, this makes sense. Because then you research you dig into their services or where they got their conclusion from. It's like, wait a minute, and then still the counter arguments, boom. And, and it sounds like a lot, and it is. That's why I said, like, serious researchers are usually at a PhD level. Even some people who call themselves amateur researchers, they got to be able to defend their position. That's why when PhDs are, they got that, when they write those papers, they call themselves defending that thing. They're going to hit you with it. So you got to know all sides of it to properly defend it. But always examine that. Always look at both sides of it. Like I said, even now, even when I talk about body game, trust me, I look for credible counter arguments. Trust me, I seriously look for it. So, because I always want to know all angles of something. So anyway, Keep that in mind. Read the counter arguments. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace and blessings.